you got to think, man, if a guy like that is running these kind of parties with all these rich and powerful people, how many different worldwide decisions can be manipulated because of these people and the compromises you have on them?
Right.
It's really a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah.
From an intelligence perspective.
Yeah, it really is, man. And like this, the way that the world is shaping out now, and this like rise of Jew hate online is, and I think a lot of it's bots. You know, I think it's coming from every angle. You know, I think it's probably a lot of propaganda and bots coming from Iran, coming from Israel, Saudi. Who knows where it's all coming from? It's just such a confusing crock of shit on the internet. But like, you know, on one hand, they were able to pull off some incredible fucking operations. And, you know, on the other hand, we get mad. Now that it gets exposed, we get mad. They have their hooks in us, and the people that are in power, whatever the politicians are, the puppets, just like bend the knee to whatever they're doing. And it gets exposed when people like Tucker did that interview with Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. And he had him on his heels the whole time. That was incredible. That was a fucking a biblical fucking interview with Ted Cruz, and that really like pulled the mask off, because like if that guy is explaining his position on Israel being in Congress, and that's his number one thing that made him want to be a congressman, it's like, what are all these other people doing then? Like if there's all this money, and you can see the receipts, how much money they're being given by these lobbies. But like, how mad can you get because we let them do it? They're legally allowed to do it.
Yeah, you could be mad, but you really should be mad at the politicians.
Yeah,
the corrupt politicians, and how many of them there are. And like, look at the mayoral race, where they all were saying, "My first trip, I'm going to go to Israel."
Oh yeah, except for the dude, what's his name? Won. He said he's going to stay in New York.
The communist. Oh. Yeah, he's like, "I'm going to take care of the Jews in New York." Boom, checkmate. That was it. That literally won it for him. Because everybody else was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, New York is fucked. Take care of this goddamn city. Why? What's this loyalty and allegiance to Israel from the New York City mayors? The people that are candidates for mayor? Yeah. Like, your number one concern is Israel? That seems odd. Unless you're getting a ton of money. You know? Unless they have some video footage.
Yeah. Yeah, the more I think about politics and just look at the news cycle every day, I just feel like I get dumber.
It's a dumb business. It's a dumb, dirty business.
It really is, dude.
If this giant group of Jewish billionaires is running a sex trafficking operation targeting American politicians and business people and stuff, you think they're working with an Arab or Muslim nation in the Middle East? Like, you think that Leslie Wexner is devoting his entire life to philanthropies on behalf of Israel, but then he's going to work for Saudi Arabia when he's doing this trafficking ring? Right.
But if someone says to him that they're all working for a country in the Middle East, knowing he knows what that means, but not specifying, doesn't he kind of have to repeat it that same way?
Well, he also has to repeat it the same way because he won't get the job if he says Israel. Exactly. Because Israel has so much control over our government right now. And I'm not saying that all Jews are in on something. Clearly, internet. Thank you.
Internet.
And Joe is definitely not saying that.
Definitely not.
But the Israel's government is every bit as vulnerable to the deep state effect as the American government. But I would argue that Israel's government is way more vulnerable to it because of the people that founded Israel and the way it was founded. It was founded in a modern time, much more recently, by it was a revolutionary founding. And I can totally sympathize with the Jewish desire to have that state. Like, I get it. But because of the way that happened, the people that founded Israel were a bunch of organized crime figures in America, the Jewish mob, that were helping with money and with arms trafficking to get the guns there because they had to have guns. And it was the Rothschild banking family sending a whole bunch of money and getting the declaration in the first place. And then the people that were there, the three different organizations, the Irgun, the Lehi group, and the Haganah, those were the three paramilitary groups that fought to found Israel, and they're the heroes of Israel, which I understand the narrative that they're heroes, but when Israel was officially founded, they officially designated Irgun and Lehi as terrorist organizations because they had been bombing civilians. They'd been bombing British civilians. The first official act of terror before they changed the definition was the bombing of the King David Hotel, where these terrorists, these Lehi and Irgun terrorists, a bunch of different groups, the guy who planned that bombing later became the prime minister of Israel. They were bombing civilians. And like, so when those are the groups that are fighting to found that nation, even if all the Jews there are wonderful people, the leadership is inherently composed of these people that have been deeply corrupt for all time. And so you get this fertile ground for this kind of deep state effect to take power. And when you start to research the heads of state of Israel over history, you realize that a bunch of them were in those groups doing those terrorist acts and have done a bunch of dark stuff because those were the people that were at the top of that military organization. Like those terrorist organizations reformed to form the IDF.
And what's interesting is
party.
You can talk about this now
Exactly.
post October 7th.
It opened wide open.
Post Gaza.
You want to know a funny story, actually? I didn't know shit about it. And I started doing 9/11 stuff. And I was doing a 9/11 video on my YouTube. And I knew about the dancing Israelis conspiracy theory that is very much a real set of documents. And I knew that I'm not allowed to talk about Israel for some reason. And I didn't really know why. And I realized, like, I better fucking understand this thing before I crater my new channel and career on this topic I don't understand. If I'm going to take a stance against Israel at all, I should understand why and how. And so I started doing research, and I shelved that research, and I switched to researching Israel and Palestine and the history there and what's going on. And I finished the video, and it was October 6th. And I was like, I was very worried because it's like you weren't allowed to talk about it. And I had just made this whole documentary about the history of Israel, Palestine, and the propaganda and what it all was. And I published it on October 6th on my Locals channel. And I kind of had this like lean back and like, if that's the end of the ride and I get canceled for this shit, so be it. And then literally the next day, and I'm not saying that October 7th was a good thing, but I'm saying that literally the next day, the entire internet was ablaze about Israel and Palestine, and everyone was talking about it. Wow. And it was the weirdest fucking coincidence. Like, and suddenly it was like, oh, all right, let's fucking dig this thing open. Because unfortunately, it is, I mean, I think fortunately, I think that the state of the Israeli influence that sustained them for so long, that was essential to them surviving this long, I think that it has grown cancerous to the Jewish faith in general, because Jeffrey Epstein is the perfect example of this. Jeffrey Epstein was the world's most prolific and evil sex trafficker that we know of so far, ever. And he very clearly was a Jewish organization of Jewish people working on behalf of Israel and other groups. And so that's a dark stain on Israel and on the Jewish people if you own it. Like, if you try to defend that, that's not good. You don't want to have to defend that.
Right.
You want to be free of that kind of shit, because the Jewish people don't believe in that. That's not what Jews are. Jews are regular people, just like
it's the deep
everyone
state
else.
of the intelligence agencies in Israel.